Well, hey fellas, Thorzax here. I have a couple of products I want to go ahead and talk to you about and the use of them. Um, I'll start off with the small stuff first. Uh, if you have an M1, one of the things that you want to get a hold of, it's well worth the money, is get yourself a single load device. And what it is that it is a end block clip that is cut. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is cut in such a way that when you stick it down inside there, okay, it goes in like this. You press it down inside there, and then this clip will clip onto the side of the inside of the receiver. And what it does is it allows you to take a single round and push it down into the load ramp, and when you let the bolt go home, it'll strip it off, from the magazine. It's not a good idea. Some guys, it's always kind of a lesson learned. M1s have a floating firing pin, so you're taking a chance of just go ahead and dropping the cartridge inside the chamber and then letting the bolt go home on it. I've seen guys do that at matches, and eventually they'll have a discharge doing that. Eventually that's bound to happen. They'll have their rifle down like this, they'll have it down like this, and they'll get ready to load, and they'll put it in, pointing the muzzle, at the ground in front of them, and they'll put it in, and they'll go ahead and they'll hit that bolt release, and that bolt will go forward, and boom! And I'm telling you what, it makes everybody on the firing line jump. I mean, big time. It's really embarrassing that happened to you. Okay, but the main thing is you get these single load devices for that. Also, when you shoot your 10-shot strings, there is a way. Let's see. Okay, there's a way where you can crisscross the rounds in the end block, and what they'll do is when you push them down in there, they'll be compressed by the follower, and the follower will stack them on top of each other, and there you go. You got your 2 rounds, and you let the bolt go home and load. If you're not really handy with doing that, I'll tell you what, I started out that way and just thought, hey, this will work. But I'll tell you what, it's just worth the extra money. I mean, these are really cheap too. They're not expensive. But you can also get a 2-round. So you load 2 rounds in this, and then you stick it down in your magazine well and let the bolt go home. You got your first 2 rounds, and then you follow it up with 8 rounds. There's your 10-shot string. So anyway, I wanted to kind of go through that. These, like I said, they're inexpensive. They're less than $5 a piece. You spend $20. Hey, spend $20. You're good. Another thing, if you can afford to do so, I want to talk to you a little bit about wind values, okay? When you're on the firing line and you're going to be taking that shot at like 600 yards or so, the most important, actually where the wind is actually going to make the most influence on a bullet, or where that bullet's going to go, is right in within about the first 100 yards, 50 to 100 yards. That's where the wind is going to make the most influence if the wind is constant throughout, the range. In other words, the wind is blowing completely out through the range. Now, what you can do is you get into like a fishtail where the wind will be blowing this way and the wind will be blowing that way. And this will be like at 600 yards, and this will be like at, 300 yards or 400 yards or whatever. And you got to kind of watch those fishtails. What you want to do is you want to wait until those fishtails die down and you get the wind going in one direction again, and then you fire your shot. There's a technique to that. But to check that wind, you get yourself a little velometer. Okay, this one here was $35. I bought it at Champion's Choice, and you know, you turn it on, and there you go. You got your miles per hour, and then you have your temperature. And what you do is that you hang this on your tripod, your spotting scope tripod out there on the line. And when you get set up and you're in your 3-minute prep period, you can actually, hold this up and get yourself a reading and get a rough reading on how many miles per hour the wind is going. If you have like strong gusts coming through and you're taking those long shots, you can pretty much also, direct this thing around so where you can tell which way the wind is blowing, if it's blowing at you or, from a crosswind or whatever. And you can do that with this because, the speed will pick up as you turn it into the wind. And you'll see that on the display. So, I don't say that it's probably imperative you have one of these, but it's nice, I mean, you can look at the leaves on the trees. You can see if the trees are swaying a little bit. Those are other telltale signs when you're shooting across the range. Is you want to look at the trees and see if the trees are swaying this way, and then maybe 200 yards down the line there, maybe the trees are leaning the other way. So you got that whole fishtail of wind going through there. Read what the wind is doing. When you're shooting over distance. So, anyway, like I said, little velometer. You don't need it, but it's handy. So that brings in another subject. Now, for the other thing I want to talk about is spotting scopes, okay? Spotting scopes, you can spend as much as you want on them. I mean, they've got ones that have like fluorite lenses, and they're just absolutely works of art. I mean, beautiful, beautiful glass, some of the best, scopes in the world are made by Kowa, and it's Kowa, and they're Japanese, but they're beautiful, beautiful spotting scopes. Money, okay? Money. I was actually entertaining replacing my spotting scope that I have right now with a Kowa 820, and just the body alone is $800. I still would have to buy the eyepiece, and the eyepiece can cost up to $500-$700 depending on what you want. If you want a like 20 to 60 zoom, fully adjustable, or if you wanted, say, like a 20 power with a wide angle, so you don't have to really get close to the eyepiece in order to see what's going on downrange. You just look and it looks like it looks like a picture. It's just like a long eye relief scope. They also have what they call a wide angle lens that you can get for those that it basically does the same thing, but you might have to focus it a little bit. But like I said, in the day, if you had one of those, dude, man, you had some really nice equipment, and a lot of guys that were on the firing line would go ahead and they would buy those, and they would put the wide angle lens on it, okay? So when they fired a shot, they could just look. They don't have to lean over. They don't have to get out of position. They don't have to lean over on their elbow or anything, and then look through the spotting scope and check their shot and their value marker, and then agree that with the guy that's scoring you behind you. You don't have to do all that. With a long eye relief, you can just look at it. You can just turn your head right off the stock and look at it. You don't break your stock weld, and you don't get out of position. So, anyway, where was I going with this? Nowadays, the technology is really, really caught up, okay? Now, my iPad, basically it's an iPhone without the phone. It has a camera in it, and I think the camera is kind of old. It's not the most it's not the fastest thing in the world. It's not high speed. I guess they got cameras and phones now that are just amazing. So it'll probably work a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe I need to play around with my iPhone a little bit and positioning and that sort of stuff. But what you can do is you can get these adapters now that go over the eyepiece, and you can take your iPhone and just slide it around there until you get the image. And so when you're shooting, okay, all you got to do is look at your iPhone that's attached to the spotting scope, and that way, you know, you're not rolling over looking into an eyepiece. You're just looking at your iPhone, and you just turn your head. There it is. That you're getting the same thing as that Kawa, you know, with the long eye relief. Maybe not the same quality of image, okay, but it's good enough. When you're shooting 600 yards, I'm going to tell you something. You're not focused in on your target. You're actually focused in at, like, you know, 200 yards, at the 200 yard line. And the reason why you do that is that when the target is down there and you fire your shot and it's pulled down into the pits, and then they, you know, mark the shot, they turn and they go ahead and they move the value marker around and they throw it back up there, okay, and your target comes back up out of the pits, you're going to be able to see the score rings, and you're also going to be able to see that value marker, and you're going to see where your impact was. That's all you care about. Okay, you don't care about your sharpness or seeing the actual bullet hole, you know, at 600 yards. That's not important. Okay, as long as you've got that marker in there and the value marker agrees with it, that's all you care about. So the real deal, okay, is back to reading the wind. And so when you are at 600 yards and you focus in, you're going to focus in at that 200 yard line. And what happens is it being out of focus like that, you're going to be seeing the mirage boil come into more sharpness, and you're going to be able to see that mirage boil, and that too tells you which way the wind is going down there. You see, and that's more important than having a sharp target, you know, in your focus. So you can read the wind with your spotting scope by following the mirage, you know, the boil, the vapors, you know, as they come up. If it's going straight up, then, you know, you don't have any wind. Okay, if it's going off to the left, you know, well, you have a wind that's blowing across to the left. If it's going off to the right, then the wind's coming off to the right. And depending on the angle, okay, of the mirage, if it's almost flat, that means you've got a real strong wind. Okay, and when it lightens up, that mirage will start to come back up like this. Okay, and you can kind of judge what your wind is doing down there by watching that mirage. So anyway, and what brought this all about? You don't have to go out anymore and buy, you know, and spend, you know, $1,500 on a spotting scope, and not unless you want to. I mean, you know, Kawas are really nice. However, I got this off of Amazon. Now, I put it on my Amazon card. I had some points on my Amazon card, and I got this for $78, which is a screaming deal. To me, it's a screaming deal. Normally, if you were to buy this, you know, straight off, you know, off of Amazon, it'd run you, I think it was $130 or $135. But this spotting scope, let's take a look at it. Comes with a, you know, kind of a piece of crap bipod. Comes with a camera adapter, which is really nice, so you can go ahead and do that whole long eye relief. And, you know, the scope itself comes in a carrying case that's padded, which is really nice. And there she is. It has an adjustable sunshade, you know. It's 80 millimeter objective lens. It's got a 20 to 60, you know, zoom eyepiece, and here's your focus knob. It also has a multi-position so that you can, and it's also detinted so that you can set it up in any position you want, and then just tighten the screw, and there it is. Also, the body is made out of magnesium. It does have some plastic to it, but what do you expect? I mean, you didn't pay a lot of money for this. You know, I mean, you paid less than $100 if you bought it on your Amazon Prime. It has your, it has your covers. Comes with the covers. It has also an eyepiece that you can go ahead and, an eyepiece guard, so you can go ahead and set that out. And when you go ahead and you set up your camera, you'll have to adjust all that, of course, and you'll have to do all the adjustments. But, you put a camera on the end of this, and, I mean, there you go. There's your long eye relief. I mean, you just look at your camera. It's really cool what technology's done nowadays. I mean, it's amazing what we got nowadays compared to when, 30 years ago. I'll tell you what, my spotting scope that I've had, I bought it from Champion's Choice when I first got into high power. I was going to buy a Kawa, and I was, saving all my money. And like again, one of the older guys there, he used to shoot with like a M49, basic scope, military scope. He had it on a spotting scope stand. And he told me, he says, Dave, all you really need is 22 power or 20 power because, you're not looking at the holes down there. All you care about is your impact and the value marker. That's it. And, the whole thing with reading the wind and taking it out of focus, so where, your focus is like on the 200-yard lines or about 100 yards away from the target. That all comes from experience and just, that's what all the experienced high-power rifle guys shoot. When they shoot, they have their spotting scope a little bit out of focus so they can see that mirage. It gives you an advantage. That is the advantage. So, anyway, so that's my review. I've taken a look at, the woods behind the house, off my balcony, and I had it set up there. I think that the bipod, it's a bipod. There's better bipods out there you can buy. I've got a Bushnell from back in the day. They don't even make it anymore. It's all made out of metal and everything. It's a nice one. Nice and steady. Also, this right here, it has a universal mount, so you can go ahead and you can mount this to a spotting scope stand if you've ever seen one of those. I got one out in the garage. It has a head on it, and it has the attachment screw, and you just screw it on there, and then your spotting scope is held there. So anyway, that's about all I got. So I wanted to get this uploaded, and there you go. But there's no real need for people that are starting out, or people that are on a budget, or anything like that anymore in the way of spotting scopes, in my opinion. Unless you really want to go out and buy a real nice spotting scope, these are fine. There's nothing wrong with this. This is, if you know how to use it, okay, this has just as much value as and quality that you're going to need, okay, to shoot a high power match. This right here. I mean, the Kawa is nice. It's beautiful. It's got beautiful glass. I mean, they're absolute. I've got a Kawa. I've got one for my pistol box. It has a beautiful little scope. Thing is, though, the scope body itself on an 820 is $800. I mean, that's a lot of money, and then you have to buy the eyepiece for another $500. I'm not going to lay out $1,500 for a spotting scope. If you know how to use one, this will do just fine. For all the things you intend to use the spotting scope for, this will do everything that will do. And with the adapter, with the iPhone, then you got the long eye relief going on, and that's a big plus. So anyway, this is Thorzax, and I'll get this uploaded and get it going. So until next time.